Hi everyone. So today I wanted to explore there is an issue, I guess, that I've kind of kept alive over the last 8 or 9 years that I've never really had a very satisfying conversation with, except with one of my best friends. But I'm really surprised that it's not like more of a topic spoken about publicly. And that's just I'm 47, which I'm very grateful for. And so at this point, I'm most probably not going to have biological children, right? And and I don't know that I'm going to be able to adopt or what's going to happen in the future. So, anyways, so there's a couple of things about this. One, it wasn't like I expressly didn't want children, but just growing up, it wasn't like, even with my other girlfriends, it wasn't like anyone was like chomping at the bit to have their own family, or maybe we didn't express it, or, and we were just like middle class growing up in the suburbs and going to school, pretty normal affair kind of thing. And like no one's family was perfect by any means, you know, but so we had parties, and it's just like people dated and people got married and ended up having kids. But I don't remember any of us being like, I can't wait to have one kid or two kids or five kids or whatever it is. It was just like, it just kind of happened or whatever, right? So I guess I assumed that. And the few times I did have a scare, let's just say, I was very happy that the test came out negative, because with these couple of people, it would have been not good for anyone involved, I don't think. And also I just was like, there's a lot of just things that needed to be addressed, therapy wise and everything else. So anyway, so that's one part of it. And the other part of it is just like this idea of legacy. And I know it's not I feel like that's going to be changing here in the future, but it's like, for those of us who didn't expressly say, I do not want kids, that's like one segment of people. And then you have the segment of people who were like whatever about it, or didn't really express it, or maybe internally they really did want kids and they ended up having kids, And then you have this other group that was like, yes, 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 I want the family, I want the kids, or at least I want the kids, like that kind of thing. Or they listen to their culture, their cultural criteria or whatever it is. And so for me, I don't know, I just kind of didn't go through any of those things for myself. I just didn't do it. And I think a part of it was there was something maybe internally that was just there was just a big bodily rejection of it in some way. Because I never thought expressly, oh, I don't want to have kids. So I just thought, oh, I probably will have kids, and yeah, that's fine. So I think it kind of, even when my sister's kids, when they were young, they would always be like, when are you getting married? When are you gonna have kids? When are you gonna have kids? And it's so sweet, because I was wondering the same thing. I grew up, well, I didn't grow up with my cousins, but I have cousins. And that's it's such a, especially when the older generations pass away, it's really nice to have people who know your family, who know your parents, without having to explain anything, who know culturally what's going on, even if they're biracial, my sister's kids. It's they know the culture of the family, how people interacted, they know their personalities, and that kind of intimacy, is it's really nice when you have a couple people to talk about that with when you're older. So, I mean, I get that. And so I think about that, and I think about yeah, so when you don't have kids and it's that like idea of legacy, and it's like, okay, well then it's like I feel like people's biggest fear is like being forgotten, like in the future, like, if you don't have kids, then why were you even born? That kind of biological imperative kind of thing. And if you didn't have the biological imperative, then that means like that whole idea of survival of the fittest, like your genetics weren't passed on because you somehow lack that you somehow don't add to the genetic necessity. So that's why you never procreated, because it was just like cosmically or genetically not necessary for your genes to be passed on. Because we talk about Darwinism and survival of the fittest, when a lot of us now know that the survival of the fittest meant adaptability. But I look around and I'm just like, I just don't know that any of that is true. You have all kinds of people at all ages having children for any reason, for no reason, for, whatever. So I find it really difficult to believe that, especially in our day and age, that genetics or the drive, like the necessary genes, are the genes that are being passed on. Is that, you know what I mean? Like, is it really the survival of the fittest? Is it really the most adaptable people in a way? And I guess arguably you can say yes, just because they were adaptable enough to procreate despite mental issues, drug issues, age, culture, religion, whatever it is. So I guess in some way you can say yes, then those are the genes that should proliferate into future generations. Anyway, so I have all these thoughts, and like even with friends that don't have kids, who didn't make that choice, like who weren't like, I do not want to have kids, they just kind of ended up not having kids, and I guess don't regret it, but just are kind of like, oh, I'll never have that experience, that kind of sentiment. Like no one really has the language to talk about that. Like therapists don't really have the language to talk about it. And this is regardless of your sexuality or whatever it is. Like, when you're kind of like, when the choice is made for you in a certain way. And most of the people I know that this is, I guess, like happened to, or will, at least in the people that I know, have had like some sort of like CPTSD, a lot of neurodivergence, like, that kind of thing. But again, that's not a reason to not have kids. Like, again, like so many different kinds of people have children. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is I'm just surprised that it's just not spoken about, that more people haven't come forward to talk about it, because I guess I'm not really looking for a resolution as much as I'm looking to other people that are kind of like reached an age where they're like, oh, I guess I'm not going to have kids, and like have to kind of grapple with that outcome. Because like it is pretty like demoralizing in a way to think that like, well, man, I guess that means my genetics weren't needed to proliferate into the future. I don't know. Like, I think there's so many good parts of me, and like all the other women that I know, like they're amazing. And I feel like the world would be so much better if they did have like, if their genes were passed on. So I don't know. Like I don't know. Like I haven't really heard a really good way to talk about it, to express this kind of grief. I haven't really heard any good explanations, or, like I'm not trying to deny that I had responsibility, that I could have had kids, because obviously I definitely could have, like, but yeah, I don't know. In some ways I'm thinking, especially like in my 20s and early 30s, like I'm glad that I didn't, because I feel like God was right in their decision to be like, not right now, So, and I do feel that like that also kind of impacts, like, I'm like, oh, well, I can do it in the next life, because all of a sudden now I'm like, oh yeah, we live many lives. So in this life, maybe I don't have kids, but then in the next life, I do have children, you know? Anyways, I hope this makes sense. And if y'all have any feedback, that would be cool to hear from you guys. So I just wanted to get like, you know, it's definitely dwindling down, but I just wanted to read some cards on it. I'm just going to read the top. Just see what the deck has to say. So the first one is the Two of Knives, which is the Two of Swords, which is choice, which, wow, okay, so apropos. And yeah, I mean, I could have made the choice, and not making the choice is also a choice. So that's very interesting. The next one is Goddess, which is the Empress. So wait, is it? Hold on. Yes, the Empress, and very heavily pregnant here. I don't, like, what are these cards really telling me? I think, like, I feel like this is telling me that if I really, really wanted kids, I would have had them. I mean, do I really know that? Because there could have been some healthcare issue. I don't know. Let me know what y'all think about this, because this is just too wild for me. And then the Matriarch. I mean, I know this, again, this is like it's a female-centric deck. And I have shuffled this thing like a million times, and I've been thinking about this. So the Emperor. So in this kind of, what she's telling me is the choice, the Goddess, and the Matriarch. So Two of Swords, the Empress, and the Emperor. I mean, maybe this was also like, I lacked these things, you know, like I didn't have internal stability. Like I didn't know, yeah, I didn't have a lot of like internal sense of identity and like surety and certitude in what I wanted to do, or who I wanted to be, and, you know, that kind of thing. I really don't know how to read this. This is what I'm talking about. Like I feel like the cards are like, girl, you had your chance. Or maybe this is saying you have your chance still, like it never goes away. Maybe that's what she's saying. Maybe that's what these cards are saying. Anyways, very interesting. I would love to hear what you have to say about this, or if you've experienced it. Anyways, very interesting. I will see y'all tomorrow. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.